Am I the butthole for telling our family and friends that my best friend has herpes because she outed me as a lesbian? I-25F and my best friend Emma F26 have been friends since elementary school, and I honestly thought of her as a sister. We tell each other everything, went to the same college, and even though we have two different jobs, we work in the same area. Emma was my rock for years as I battled self-hate and depression due to growing up in a small conservative town as not only a person of color but a closeted lesbian. Emma did not know I was a lesbian, just knew that I was unhappy. Never staying long in relationships, self-isolation, and later I developed anorexia. Emma was the one who suggested we go to an out-of-state college and later suggested we move out of state too. I've gotten much better since then, and for that, I genuinely thank her. Though about 2 years ago Emma contracted herpes from some guy she slept with, and it has been very hard for her to land a boyfriend since then, and it's made her very lonely. She hasn't told her family or friends about it because she doesn't want to be seen as gross. Due to this, I haven't really put myself in the dating field and have put off coming out. Though about 6 months ago I met this girl at a craft store. Long curly hair, dressed in all black with big eyeliner and ruby lipstick. I couldn't stop staring at her, and I admit when she smiled at me, I kind of followed her around the store. I know, creepy. I eventually worked up the courage to just ask her for her number, and she gave it to me. I was so excited. I started texting her that night, and since then, we have been hanging out a ton, and I think she likes me back. I was going to ask her out, but since I live with Emma, I decided I should come out since I will be bringing her around if the girl says yes. So after work I sat her down and told her I was a lesbian. I said all the anguish I went through growing up was because of my self-hate. How I wish I could have told her earlier, but I never found the right time, but now that I was in love with someone I felt like I should tell her. That she was the one person I trusted with this information. She just stared at me shocked for a few seconds, and then her face turned from shock to disgust. She jumped back and accused me of being a pervert and how I was gross for being around her so much knowing I was gay. Even mentioning how she's gotten changed around me and I'm no better than some creepy man. I tried explaining I had no romantic feelings for her and I honestly had a crush on someone else. She wouldn't buy it and locked herself in her room. Later my phone started ringing off the hook, and to my surprise it was tons of messages from my family and our friend group either calling me homophobic slurs or asking if it was true that I liked Emma. My mother even called to scream at me a few times, and apparently I'm disowned. I started banging on the door and told her why the hell she outed me to everyone, and she just started calling me a pervert again. So I was like, oh okay, fine. You want to play? Fine. I had a pic of her diagnosis and sent it to her parents and our friend group. According to the only friend who didn't crap on me, people are talking more about Emma than me because she still shares stuff even though she has herpes. Now they are grossed out and are accusing her of trying to infect them with her diseases along with some SL*T shaming. Now I'm looking for a new apartment and I'm still planning to ask the girl out this week, but I was told by Emma's parents that I ruined her reputation and labeled their daughter as a dirty H*E. I feel bad, but I felt like she deserved it. Though I know that a disease and sexuality are two different things, so I'm wondering if I was really wrong to do that. Edit, since some had asked. I'll make another edit TMMR. I'm asking her out tonight. I made reservations at this nice Thai place she's been wanting to try. Then I'm going to take her to Boardwalk and ask her out there as to not put her on the spot in front of a ton of people. See y'all then, hope it goes well. Edit 2, I'm about to go pick up Ruby. A commenter has been calling my crush Ruby, and I think that's pretty cute, so that's what I'm going to be referring to her as. Anyway, for some context since it was asked. Emma is staying with a family friend who lives around here because her parents don't want us fighting. My lease is up soon and hopefully I've locked down something by then. At least I'll be able to be alone now. Anyway, wish me luck. Edit 3. I posted an update but made it into a separate post because it was kinda long. Update. So as I stated in my last post, Emma is now staying with a relative in our area till our lease ends. The actual update on this is this morning Emma's parents were at my door. They flew out because Emma is refusing to step back into our apartment. So I let them come inside because I wasn't about to hold Emma's stuff hostage, but I did something stupid. See, they didn't really want to speak to me, which was fine, but I decided to just wait in my room until they left. Me and Emma have an emergency fund that had about 5K in it. I put in roughly 7K. They took it. The entire thing. Once I noticed, I called them to give me back my money because not all of it is hers, and they told me that I earn more than Emma, and this was compensation for ruining her reputation. I was like, so it's okay that she tried to screw me over first. Their response, Emma did not choose this disease, you chose yours. I didn't even respond, that I just hung up. Honestly, I don't even care. They didn't take anything else other than the money. I genuinely don't want to see them anymore. Emma also has been cut off from her siblings because they have kids, and she was kissing the babies without letting the parents know of her diagnosis. She also usually was not taking proper precautions during active outbreaks, so now none of her siblings want her around them because they feel betrayed. Though on a lighter note, me and Ruby are officially dating. A commenter kept referring to her as Ruby, and honestly, I think that matches. We went out to a fancy Thai spot, watched a movie, and then I took her to the water at the edge of the city. I had some stupid playlist set up. I was trying to tone it down, but I couldn't, too excited. I told her how beautiful I thought she was, how I enjoyed spending time with her, and if she was okay with it, if I could take her out on a date sometime. I had a whole speech prepared, but one of the comments told me I should be simple to not scare her. She laughed at me. She said, this was the first date. So that was a yes. I dropped her off at her house, and she gave me a kiss before she left, and I'm so happy. I've never kissed a girl before, grah. So yeah, I actually give zero craps about the money, I just want them out so I can start my new life. Anyway, that was all. Thanks a lot for the advice and support. Next story. My F17 church banned our youth worship leader F20 for denouncing Christian nationalism during service. The rest of the band wants to stage a walkout the next time they play. My church's youth group has a youth band that leads worship during youth, but the church also has them lead worship on Sunday mornings every few weeks to promote the youth band when the usual worship team has a week off. I'm not in the band, but I often help with lyric PowerPoints along with another girl, but not when the band plays on Sundays. The main singer of the youth band is the daughter of a youth assistant, and the daughter is an assistant too. We'll call her Emma. She's 20. I'm writing because of what happened the last time the youth band led Sunday worship on 6/30 that led to Emma and her family leaving the church. In between one of the songs, Emma said she felt led to say that Christian nationalism wasn't of God, because forcing people to believe went against the basis of Christianity because God gave free will and too many Christians forgot that. She also said there would be no short and narrow path if people were forced to walk it, before saying Project 2025 was advertised as Christian but resembled nothing of God, because God never forced people to believe in Him. No one confronted her or anything, as it was brief, and they played a few more songs along with the closing song after the pastor finished his sermon. But when we got to youth on Friday night, Emma and her mother weren't there, and we were later informed by the youth pastor that Emma and her mom would no longer be helping the youth before a bunch of stuff about giving others the chance to be lead singers because Emma had left the church. However, word got out from one of the band's players that Emma told the band that she got banned during the week and that her parents left the church with her, so they already knew before we found out at youth. The reason I'm making this post is because of a conversation I had with the band and other PowerPoint girl the same Friday the youth pastor announced it, and the conversation was private from the rest of the kids. Long story short, the band is upset about what happened to Emma, and they've been throwing around ideas on what to do. The one they're heavily considering is a walkout the next time they're scheduled to play on Sunday. After playing the intro song, service opens with an intro song before someone comes on stage to welcome everyone before worship continues, and they would voice support for Emma before walking out together. They haven't told anyone not associated with the band because they don't want anyone to spill the deets. But the main thing we're debating is repercussions from our parents and whether or not it's worth the risk. There's likely a few weeks until the band plays on Sunday again, and they still haven't decided on a new lead singer yet. I also want to add that the church didn't upload the worship portion of the service with Emma, and only uploaded the sermon from that day. They always include worship on their YouTube upload of the service. Most of the concerns were around tuition punishments, as some of them have their parents helping pay, but they still want to do something. And while I'm not in the band technically, aside from coordinating PowerPoint lyrics occasionally, I figured the least I could do was get advice from other adults anonymously, because we don't want to ask our parents for obvious reasons, and maybe others could see more pros and cons that we can. I appreciate any advice that anyone gives and will relay it to the band too. Thanks to anyone who read this too. Edit. I forgot to add this detail in my post, but the pastor of our church has used the pulpit to speak politics in the past, and has even mentioned support of a presidential candidate on numerous occasions, along with other political topics, on occasion to Roe v. Wade and gay rights. So while I agree that politics probably shouldn't be spoken in church, some of the band said that Emma was tired of the often political topics being brought up during sermons, thus why she said what she said. Update. I want to thank to everyone who commented on my original post, because it was way more than I expected, and many of you had really helpful advice. This is a small update with some really surprising things that happened since. First, the band is still going through with the walkout, and they're keeping it within the band so that no other kids tell their parents who might tell leaders. It would have been awesome to include others, but the risk of the church catching wind was too great. Second, we have a date of 8 quarters when the youth band will do worship for the adults again. Third, the youth pastor appointed a singer from within the group who will take turns singing on Sundays with future participants in the coming weeks. Fourth, the new singer agreed that the church's handling of Emma was BS. Fifth, and most exciting, 2 of the band members told non-religious relatives about the situation and fear of punishment, and they agreed to come to the service and let them head to their cars in the parking lot straight from the walkout for safety. They won't leave the lot in case some parents try to claim kidnapping, but will be in their cars if all goes well, and the rest of us are going to ask our relatives too. Sixth, one of the band members told a teacher they knew from school who's thinking about coming and walking out too. And seventh, one of the band members wrote a little something that the lead singer will read before they walk off stage, and it would be great if anyone with editing experience could help to make it clearer or provide advice on what to add. They tried to keep it short. I will make a post about their write-up in the near future. Here's how we hope it happens. The band will play the opening song, which officially starts service and usually lets people know it's starting. Many make their way from the foyer during the intro song. And after someone gives the welcome prayer after the opening song, the lead singer will then give the speech before the band walks off stage, and I will walk out with them from the pews along with relatives' friends. One relative said she might bring some people she knows too, which could make more of a statement to the church to see adults leaving too. One of the relatives will also record the whole thing in case any parents don't react well to it, and I will update after it happens. If anyone has any further advice, it would be appreciated, and I'll bring it to the band. Most of the band outside of 2 seniors aren't old enough to vote this year, but this is a chance to stand up for what's right against something that is adamantly infusing itself into Christianity, Christian nationalism, and making Christianity lose all of its respect in our opinion. We don't expect change to happen in the church as a result of our walkout, but it's a small thing we can do to say we did our part when faced with it ourselves. Another commenter put it best when she asked if we'd be able to live with ourselves if we did nothing, and the answer has been no for us so far. I also want to add something I forgot to clarify in my first post. Emma didn't say what she did out of the blue. She had been vocal about the pastor talking politics for some time according to the band, and I've seen much of it too. However, a lot of people sent DMs disagreeing with the band's decision. So before I get into it, I want to give specifics of what the pastor has done. The pastor mentioned Trump from the pulpit numerous times, including the aftermath of the 2020 election, to voice discontent over the results. He has also celebrated Roe v. Wade's overturning from the pulpit, Pride Month during June, and even compared Trump's legal trial to how Jesus was persecuted leading up to his crucifixion. Things that have no place being vented about from the pulpit, and this has happened over the course of a few years. I received a few DMs in the aftermath of my first post, and some were encouraging while others not so much. A few people who said they were Christians said that Emma was wrong to use the microphone to hijack the service with her words because she should have talked to the pastor first while calling her actions immature. However, when I showed the band the advice from my posts, I also told them about the DMs, and they said that Emma spoke to a leader about the pastor's political sermons in the past. But nothing came from it as he continued to speak politics from the pulpit frequently. Some people also said that our walkout wasn't godly because we, like Emma, would be hijacking the service for a publicity stunt when church was supposed to be about God. Some people called us immature, among harsher things. But we disagree for two reasons. First, who is supposed to call out the misuse of the pulpit, if not people who attend the same church where it's misused? A few DMs said to do nothing and pray for God to change the pastor's heart. But he's been doing this for years. And second, the Bible gives guidance on how to call out improper behavior in the church in Matthew 18:15-17. Dealing with sin in the church. 15. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. 16. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. 17. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church, and if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Emma has already talked to a leader one-on-one, and the band has voiced displeasure about Emma's ban to the youth pastor, only for him to disagree and say that Emma was out of line. Regarding the part about tell it to the church, I suppose the how might be up to interpretation. Maybe telling the church means telling a church leader instead of the congregation on stage. But Emma and the band have talked to various leaders, including an elder to a side of our youth leader, only for years of political rants from the pulpit to continue. When Jesus flipped tables in Matthew 21:12, we believe he did it because people were using the temple to sell things that had nothing to do with God, and we believe that politics falls into the same boat. Someone commented a link in the comments of my first post that I never saw, but I showed the band, and we couldn't agree with it more. Pastor Lauren Livingston talked about the role of politics in the church and how politics shouldn't be combined with Christianity. I still plan to speak with my parents ahead of 8 quarters, and I'll share the write-up the band is working on really soon. I really appreciate everyone who commented too. Lastly, I want to clarify that the walkout is the band's decision entirely. I am not a member of the band, I just do PowerPoint lyrics during youth, and I'm not even in the band's group chat with Emma, as some of the band members are contemplating punishments from parents to seniors who are concerned with their parents removing tuition help. I will support whatever they decide while understanding that they have to take care of their future too, as many commented. If they decide to continue with the walkout, I will support them and walk out from the pews. But if they change their mind because repercussions are too great, I will respect that and continue to support them. Update 2. I meant to get back to this sooner, but some things happened on and after 8 quarters. Since my previous post, the band decided not go through with the walkout, and Emma was a big reason why. The band told me that Emma spoke to them a few days before AITFER after she spoke to another bandmate who voiced concern. The girl who spoke to Emma was 15 and confided in her about physical abuse fears from her parents, and Emma spoke to the band on behalf of those fears. Emma also referenced some of the fears that the senior bandmates had about losing tuition support and told them that it wasn't worth risking their futures. Emma, unlike the band, had a full-time job to support herself, but some of the band was still tied to their parents for years. She pretty much told them to go with their gut if they had fears about repercussions from their parents, as the 15-year-old girl had. And the senior who feared losing tuition said that his parents threatened him with it in the past about something else, which is why he thought of it. I wasn't present when the band spoke to Emma because I'm not a member of the band. I only do PowerPoint lyrics and they tell me what songs before youth group, but they told me and the other PowerPoint girl afterward. So instead of playing on 8for, the band collectively and privately resigned to the youth pastor at youth group the Friday before 8for, and none of them played on 8for. They also told their parents that they would before doing so, and a few of the bandmates said they were never forced to join the youth band by their parents. They simply volunteered. But that didn't mean they weren't going to say anything about Emma's treatment. They just wanted to in a safer environment that wouldn't risk embarrassing their parents in front of the congregation, which could cost them privileges. Instead, they decided to share their write-up with Emma, who was planning on posting her own explanation of her ban from the church. Emma posted her explanation along with the band's write-up to her socials on 8quarters regarding why the band collectively resigned, and a few bandmates decided to repost it on their socials. Emma also tagged the church's social in her post and believed that the walkout would do more harm to the band than good. So the social media route was a slightly better alternative. Not as many people will see it, but we believe potential rumors and gossip might do their thing. A few of the bandmates also told their parents that they would no longer attend that specific church, and while a few of them argued with their parents, perhaps it was less than the would have been backlash of embarrassing them with a church walkout. The 15-year-old girl ended up attending church on 8for, but the seniors didn't, although they ended up returning the following Sunday. None of them, including myself, have attended youth group since the Friday right before 8for, and I didn't attend on 8for either. Two unexpected things also happened. I received a DM from someone who said that they were from a Christian news outlet, and while I never heard of their outlet before, they asked permission to share the band's story in one of their newsletters anonymously, not including the band's names or the churches, and the band said they'll pray on it and weigh the decision. Additionally, a pastor reached out in DMs and said that he was encouraged by their story. He also said that pastors were supposed to hold each other accountable and asked for the name of the church so that he could reach out pastor to talk. But Emma and the band are undecided on this at the moment. They said they're going to pray on it along with how it's important to make sure it's a real pastor and that no harm will come to the church. And I told the pastor that I'll get back to him. Emma also told the band that her parents haven't talked to her much since her church statements, and that's because of arguments that they had. Some people thought that Emma's parents left the church in support of their daughter getting banned, but that wasn't the case. Her parents were banned too, and Emma said they didn't appreciate being blindsided by Emma's statement and received some backlash for them. Emma still stands by everything she said, but they aren't talking at the moment. The last thing I'll say is about me and how I feel about everything, and I'll leave the band's statement from Emma's post afterward. This was the last straw in a long line of stuff for me from this particular church, but it goes further than that. I struggle to understand how parents can care more about church appearances more than the needs and desires of their kids, and I'm not talking about bad things. I'm talking about normal things, and Emma's statement said it better than I could. Emma said that God gave everyone free will, but the 15-year-old girl vented about physical abuse in regards to not wanting to go to church in the past, and that is the opposite of what God taught. God didn't force people to believe in Him, but some parents take away privileges if they refuse to fall in line with God and their church. I barely even have any friends myself, and I'm not even in the band group chat. The band told me everything secondhand, and none of them are my friends. They hang out together outside of church, but I only have one other friend from church because I've been homeschooled for all of my life because my parents think public school is too secular. I can't even do official sports aside from sports played in the church field that our homeschool group uses. So I can't do leagues or be on any teams like high school. I just wish my parents would have let me go to school, but apparently they don't think their religion is strong enough for me to go to school and supposedly not lose my faith. Kinda like they've been keeping me on training wheels for 17 years. Personally, I need a break from church. I know not all churches are bad because the one I happen to grow up in is questionable. But I've decided I'm not a Christian because I said the salvation prayer when I was like 7 or 8. And I don't think that counts. You don't know what you believe at that age because all you have is heavy bias from your parents. And I need a break to be unbiased in the future after my pastor has made some questionable decisions in recent years, venting politics in the church like the people who sold things that weren't of God before Jesus flipped tables. I'm going to try and learn about other religions because Christianity is all I ever knew. So I've stopped considering myself a Christian internally of late. Doesn't mean I'll never return, but I need a long break from Christianity because just thinking of modern Christians makes me sick. Too much hate disguised as Christianity and political overlap. I know there's good ones, but I have to broaden my perspective. And without a long break, I won't be able to be non-biased in my search. I've also argued with my parents about how I'll no longer attend church, but this is getting too long. Some of the band has faced punishments for not going, and that is the epitome of what's wrong with their twisted version of Christianity. So I hope a break will help me reset in some ways. The band's statement talked about how they would no longer attend the church, but I'm not sure if their parents were the reason they returned on Sunday morning after 8 quarters. Regardless, here is the write-up that they shared with Emma, and it's longer than what they likely would have been allowed to say before the walkout if someone cut their microphone, which is an advantage of social media in this case. This is the band write-up that Emma posted alongside her explanation of how she was banned. As Christians, we are called to worship Jesus Christ. But how does one become a Christian? By making a choice no one else can make for us. But the last part is something too many Christians forget. Jesus never forced anyone to follow him. Joshua 24:15 tells us to choose whom we will serve. But many have forgotten the part about free will and believe that fusing religion with conservatism is the way. The sole purpose of Christianity is a personal relationship with God. It has nothing to do with Christian nationalism, and those who try to use our faith as an excuse to control others are false prophets. As Christians, we shouldn't judge others because we are not God. But since our church has banned Emma and lied to the youth about how she chose to leave, we can no longer play or remain in a church where the pastor uses the pulpit to preach other than the gospel. And we pray that the true Spirit of God returns someday. Next story. Am I the butthole for considering breaking up with my fiancé because he ran away when we were being attacked? My fiancé 24M and I 24F have been dating for 6 years. He proposed to me a few months ago, which was the happiest moment of my life. We set our wedding date for this December. However, after what happened last night, I am seriously considering breaking up with my fiancé, and am unsure if I am an butthole. My fiancé, my brother, and I were all walking back to our car from dinner at a nice restaurant. The car was parked pretty far away as the place was packed, so we had to walk quite some distance. It was late at night, and as we were walking, a person in a bike came to the side of us and stopped us and demanded we give everything we had. My fiancé panicked and just ran away, but my brother, after talking to the man for a couple of minutes, just attacked the man, and long story short, my brother beat him up. The man had no weapon, it was just a fake gun. I called my fiancé after that and told him everything was fine and that we would pick him up. My fiancé still seemed a bit shaken, but I explained to him everything was all right, and my fiancé thanked my brother a lot. However, I just felt extremely weird and sort of disappointed that my fiancé just ran away. I understand it was his natural instinct, but just seeing my brother take the attacker down, and in comparison to my fiancé just running away, I just feel like I lost a lot of love for my fiancé after last night. I spoke with my brother this morning to get his opinion, and he said I should still give my fiancé a chance, and that my fiancé loves me, and what happened last night is not a normal occurrence. However, I told him, I just got a massive Ike, and I don't think this Ike will ever go. Am I the butthole? Update. I have broken up with my fiancé. I did it this quick because it was not fair to him or to me to keep this relationship just stringing along. Yes, I loved him a lot and will always cherish the memories I had with him, but after the incident last night, I just don't have that same love for him anymore, and I don't think I ever will. To be clear, I don't blame him for what he did in running away. It was his natural instinct, and I completely understand that. But when my brother instinctively stepped in front of me to shield me from the attacker in comparison to my fiancé just running away scared, it pretty much evaporated most, if not all, of my feelings for my fiancé. I've just learned about myself that one of my love languages is safety and security. I let my fiancé know and I apologized, and I told him I don't blame him at all for what happened the previous night. My fiancé was devastated, and he did cry a lot. But after some time, he said he understood my decision. I still feel really guilty about it because my fiancé is a really kind and sweet man, but it wouldn't be fair to him if my heart wasn't in it. He deserves to be in a relationship with someone who loves him for who he is, and I deserve to find someone who I wholly love. Next story. My boyfriend shattered my phone because a homeless guy gave me a flower. My birthday was a couple of days ago, and I haven't spoken to him since. I'm heartbroken about this. I was walking home with my boyfriend, and we passed a group of homeless people. One of them said, "Here you go, miss you since you're the first woman who walked by," and gave me a dead flower. It was around 10 p.m. and my birthday was at midnight, so it kind of felt special to me. I said thank you so much and kept walking. My BF didn't say anything, so I didn't think anything was wrong. I took my phone to take a video of the flower and tell my friend what just happened, and he tried taking my phone. I was laughing and asked what he's doing and didn't answer, just kept walking next to me. He looked a little annoyed, but I still wanted to get a video with the flower, so I pulled my phone out again. This time, he hit my hand really hard and made me drop my phone on the concrete. My phone screen is completely broken. Luckily, it's the screen protector, but still, it's all shattered. I screamed, "Why did you do that?" And he took my flower and threw it on the road. He said that's what I get for embarrassing him like that. I was tearing up because 1. He broke my phone. 2. He threw my flower away. 3. I couldn't understand what I did wrong. He made me delete the video with the flower in front of him, and we walked in silence the rest of the time. At home, I blew up at him. I was crying, screaming, asking him why he did that. Literally an hour before my birthday. He said, "How would you feel if a girl just came up to me in front of you to give me a flower?" I said, "If it were the same homeless woman that you see almost every day when you walk in your neighborhood, I wouldn't mind." We have walked by this specific man plenty of times. He called me a liar, then said I was manipulative to try to invalidate his feelings when I was blandly disrespecting him in front of other men. I don't understand how it's disrespectful. I wasn't even going to keep the damn thing. It was a dead flower. I just thought it was cool because that had never happened to me, especially 2 hours before my birthday. He said a bunch of stuff, basically that I was an attention seeker. I was sobbing. It was already my birthday and I felt like crap. We went to sleep without talking, and the next morning he was gone. I had a brunch with my friends, so I had my mind distracted for a couple of hours, but it was still in the back of my mind. I still don't know who's 100% in the wrong here. Maybe I shouldn't have accepted the flower, but I honestly saw it as an innocent thing. He still won't talk to me. Even his siblings wished me a happy birthday, but he hasn't yet. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my boyfriend over a flower. Update. Hello everyone, thank you so much for all the help. I broke up with him. To be honest, I still love him, and I'm trying to cut all communication, because I know that if he contacts me again, I'll most likely go back. I literally made a list of all the reasons why he sucks, and I try to read it every time I want to text him lol. Here's the update. He surprised me with my favorite flowers and a letter. He wished me happy birthday and apologized for his reaction. He said he was being immature and it won't happen again. He said we should work on communicating each other's boundaries better. He also apologized for ghosting me for a few days. He said he just needed some time to cool down. Not going to lie, I just wanted my boyfriend back. So I accepted the apology under the condition that he will never do anything like that again. He swore on his life that he'll never make me cry ever again. I genuinely saw a shift in his personality. He was even better than when I first fell for him. Like one time, we were cuddling and talking about our relationship. He literally started crying while professing his love to me. He said that he knows that sometimes he gets frustrated over little things, but it's because he loves me so much, and he's terrified to lose me. He shared so many things about his past he had never opened up to me before, so it really felt like the relationship grew stronger. We went to the beach as a little birthday celebration for me with his friends. We were 6 in total, and I was the only girl. 2 other girls were supposed to come too, but they had work. I didn't know that until I asked one of the guys, and he told me. Long story short, he got mad at me for wearing a bikini. He was like, "What the F do I look like having my girl walk around half naked like a hoe in front everyone?" I reminded him that we're at the beach and a lot of people wear bikinis at the beach. He said that it's different because I'm the only girl here with 5 guys and it makes me look bad. I said I didn't care and went back to everyone. After a little while, he pulled me to the side again. He called me names, said that one of his friends obviously wants to F me, but I'm too dumb to see it. He said he overheard Himi don't think this is true but Ida. He was very angry, but also he had been drinking so it could explain his irrationalness. I started crying then went home because I didn't want people to see me like that. He was being so weird. I don't know why he was being aggressive all of a sudden. Like before the flower incident, he had never used that kind of language with me, especially in public. He came over that night to talk about what happened. I was so hurt. I honestly thought we had grown closer. We both explained our side of the situation. I told him I wasn't trying to get anyone's attention by wearing a bikini, and I can kind of understand his point of view. BC was a little uncomfortable too, being the only girl there. He said I could have put my clothes back on, but I had to stay in a bikini. He said I looked like a hoe waiting to get effed when I was laying on my stomach tanning. I can't really remember what he said after that. I was just so hurt. We were going in circles, so we decided to just go to bed. He then tried to initiate sex, which just pissed me off. I said no every time. I heard him say something about me being an annoying jerk under his breath, and that was the last straw. I kicked him out and broke up with him. It wasn't easy. He was crying and screaming the whole time. He even punched a wall in my room. I was terrified. I never thought he could do that. We had never fought like that before. He finally left when I dialed 911 and threatened to call. I don't know why I still love him so much. I understand his reactions, knowing his past and what he's been through, and it's a lot, trust me. I know it's not an excuse, but it's still an explanation, right? Anyway, it's over now. Half of my stuff is still at his house. I don't even want to think about it right now. He's blocked. I am really trying to villainize him in my mind so I can move on. But it's hard when all I can think of is the amazing moments we shared. Like how he was crying in my arms telling me he loves me more than life. The day he asked me to be his girlfriend, or the day he gave me a promise ring. Maybe I did go wrong somewhere. It's just so crazy to think that all of this could have been avoided if I hadn't accepted the flower. Also, I am very aware that I'm dumb for thinking that he could change so quick. I just wanted my boyfriend back. Thank you again, everyone, for the advice. Final update. Hey everyone, I think this is the final update on the situation. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I went back one more time. I know it was a stupid choice. It's hard to explain. It's like he has a hold on me. At first, it was just about the sex, nothing more. We didn't want to completely cut each other off, but I didn't want to officially get back together or start meeting new people, so we agreed this would be the best option. And for a while, it actually worked. After the 5th or 6th time, we decided to try getting back together, but to do it right this time. I laid out my boundaries. No yelling, no cursing at me, no hitting, no going through my stuff, and being respectful. I made it clear that if he crossed any of these lines, I would leave him. I told him I wasn't his emotional punching bag, and that just because he's been through a lot doesn't mean he can take it out on me, especially since I've never treated him that way. He agreed to everything and shared his own boundaries with me. No yelling, being respectful, modesty, and not going through his stuff. I also read some comments about how punching a wall can be the first step to punching someone, so I told him that could never happen again. He agreed and even booked a therapy appointment. He's really committed to self-improvement. Anger and impulsiveness are his only real issues. We both wanted this to work. Our anniversary is coming up, and I didn't want to break up right before it. Things were going fine until he sent me a TikTok of my post and accused me of exaggerating everything, basically calling me a liar. I'm attaching some screenshots because to this day, I still don't understand why he was saying all that. I got mad and called him, and we ended up screaming at each other on the phone. I felt like he was making everything about himself again and dismissing my feelings because he was embarrassed. He came over with my stuff and broke up with me, insulting me the whole time. I didn't want things to end like that, so I asked him to stay and talk. Long story short, we ended up screaming at each other again, and he broke my MacBook. I'm so done. Luckily, I'm not going to school this semester, so I won't really need it, but he still broke it. Like, what the F? I'm reading the book that was recommended to me, and it's hard to accept that my boyfriend is one of those people. I'm glad he broke up with me. I know he's not good for me. He hates me now, and it's for the best. I know he won't bother me again, and I have no reason to talk to him now that I have my stuff back. I'm still learning a lot, like what love bombing is. I didn't even know that's what he was doing. I know I'm naive, and that's why I want to stay single for a while. I don't want to end up in this situation again. Thank you to everyone, especially all the women, for sharing your stories, for helping me when I needed it. Next story. Would I be the butthole if I just tell everyone the truth about what is going on, even though it would ruin my husband's image? Okay, so my husband has been dealing with some major issues. We have not yet figured out what it is, but he has been dealing with certain delusions. For example, it all started 6 months ago when he was convinced he had caught me cheating because he found a document saying so on my laptop. When I arrived home and he tried looking for it to show me, he obviously couldn't find it. He is going to therapy, but as of right now, we are technically separated and living in different rooms. It's just because this keeps happening. A certain insecurity eats itself into my husband, and he becomes convinced that it's the truth. He either dreams proof or he just convinces himself that anything is proof. I like what he does with a therapist, but I honestly don't see it getting better. Last week, he was mad at our daughter 15 because she didn't want him to drive her to prom and make pictures with her. When I went to ask her, she said that that was not true. She had talked to her dad about what she would like to do when she graduates in 2 years. Her father just got really mad at the perceived slig. The problem is that he keeps talking to people about the issues. I was already wondering why so many mutuals stopped responding to me. But apparently, they all think I am an awful human being and terrible spouse. I just want to tell people what is going on. Also, so they are aware that my husband is basically lying to them, and for them to tell me delusions that he might be having that I don't know. But at the very beginning of his therapy, he begged me not to tell anyone because people would think he is crazy. My sister said that it would also be an butthole thing to do that would basically feed into his delusions. I just feel like I am done. Am I the butthole? Edit. We already did a brain scan, Marie, and nothing was found. I am dyslexic and have always been bad at grammar, so excuse me, please. This is Nanas. Update. I thank everyone for their supportive words, especially the people that have been through something similar. Thank you so much for sharing with me. It makes me feel less alone. Also, just because I have seen that a lot of people have not been able to read my first post. I have tried everything from getting him to a real psychologist to having him committed. I have tried with his doctor, with my mill, and with my lawyer. But he has not broken the law or actually assaulted me. Just threatened to kill me and our daughter for being bad girls. But to the police that does not matter because we don't matter. So please, all the suggestions you have and suggestions to get him committed or that he might have a tumor or dementia or schizophrenia, please stop. I have no fight left in me. I also have no legal ground over him. I can't care anymore, or I will drive myself insane. He still has a support net. He will never be alone. But that man is dangerous to me and my daughters. And the duty of a parent is above all else. So again, please stop suggesting what he could have or what I should do regarding him, because that job is no longer mine. First off, thank you all for your feedback and support. I took some time to process everything, and honestly, I was at my breaking point. The situation has escalated in ways I never imagined, and I've made some tough decisions. After I posted, things started to unravel quickly. About 5 months ago, when my husband's behavior first started escalating, I quietly consulted with a lawyer here. At that time, his delusions had begun to affect our daily lives, and I knew I needed legal advice. The divorce process requires a period of legal separation before the divorce can be finalized. We initiated this process, and I requested full custody of our 15-year-old daughter, given her increasing fear of her father. The court was also concerned and ordered a psychological evaluation for my husband to assess his mental fitness for parenting. A few weeks into the legal separation, my husband's paranoia worsened. He started placing Apple AirTags in my car and in our 15-year-old daughter's backpack, tracking our every move. My daughter was the one who found the AirTag in her bag and was terrified. When I confronted him, he insisted it was for our safety, but it was clear to me that his paranoia was spiraling out of control. This incident deeply affected our daughter, who began refusing to see her father. Around this time, my mother-in-law reached out to me. She was concerned because my husband had accused her of cheating on his father, something that was completely out of character for him. Phil didn't believe it for a second, but was deeply worried about his state of mind. Her reaching out was a small but much-needed relief. She acknowledged that his behavior was erratic and offered her support, knowing that something was seriously wrong. My older daughter, 19, had also become involved in the situation. She had been quietly documenting her father's behavior for months. She recorded 3 different occasions where my husband went on delusive rants. The first was about how I'm supposedly cheating on him with one of my coworkers, a man I barely interact with. The second was about how our 15-year-old daughter was secretly dating someone older and lying to him about it. The third was about how the entire family was conspiring against him to make him look crazy. Watching these videos was heartbreaking, but they validated everything I'd been dealing with privately. Things escalated further when my husband almost attacked one of my colleagues. He had convinced himself that this man was the affair partner I was supposedly seeing behind his back. It took all my strength to physically separate them before the situation turned violent. As the legal process continued, my lawyer informed me that due to the severity of the situation and the psychological evaluation ordered by the court, my request for full custody was strongly considered. In Spain, courts typically prioritize the well-being of the child, and given my husband's mental state and the danger he posed, it seemed likely that I would be granted full custody of our 15-year-old daughter. She had made it clear that she didn't want to see her father, and the court was taking her wishes into account. In the midst of this, my 19-year-old daughter decided to take matters into her own hands. She posted the 3 videos she had recorded of her father's breakdowns on Instagram, along with a compilation of texts, photos, and other evidence she had collected over the past few months. Her intention was to show the world what we had been enduring, but it quickly turned into a public spectacle. The backlash was intense. Some people were horrified and reached out with sympathy and support, while others criticized us for airing dirty laundry and accused my daughter of betraying her father. As the divorce process continued, my husband's mental health became a significant factor. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court revealed the depth of his delusions, particularly around cheating and female sexuality. It became clear that he was not fit to make decisions regarding our daughter's well-being. The evaluation supported my claim for full custody, and the court is now in the process of finalizing that decision. In the meantime, all communication between my husband and me is being handled through our lawyers, and I'm ensuring that any interaction between him and our 15-year-old daughter is supervised. Given the severity of the situation and the damage done to our lives, I'm making plans to move away with my daughter once the legal proceedings are finalized. My reputation in our current community is shattered, thanks to his delusions and the lies he has spread. Starting fresh somewhere new seems like the only way for us to heal and rebuild our lives. I never wanted it to come to this. I still care deeply for my husband, but I can't keep sacrificing our well-being for the sake of his image. The revelation that he's been lying to his therapist, or rather, his unqualified life coach, was a breaking point for me. I realized I couldn't trust him to get better on his own. Thankfully, some friends have started to see through his stories and are reaching out to support us, which gives me hope. But I know it's going to be a long, difficult road ahead. For anyone else in a similar situation, please know that you're not alone. This has been the hardest decision I've ever made, but sometimes you have to do what's best for your own mental health and safety, no matter how much it hurts. Thank you again for all the advice. I'm hopeful that this is the first step towards a better future, even if it's a painful one. Next story. I had a baby as a result of an affair, and now his wife is reaching out to me. IF, 26, had an affair with a married man M, 42, a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran, and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him, I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant, and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated, and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting WTF, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted, and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up. But I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first, he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming his as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their sibling and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings. If she's being genuine about that? If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it, and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant, and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing, and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago, his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now, their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me the one message. So it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect. If this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow, I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate me if I were them. I told her with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down, so he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently, she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up, and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie, and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it. It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially. But then it's like, was any of that true, or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Update 2. I posted about this few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college, I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away in a vacation to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word, and I did name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago, his wife contacted me via social media. At first, she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it, but at the end of the conversation I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and they're teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident, and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly, he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child, so she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here. Then, I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son. He wants to be a father to our son. He wants to provide financially for him. He'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally directly. Now, I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess, and he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives, Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Update 3. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in the now over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out in behalf of her ex-husband, who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby, and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media, and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago, we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then, without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son, and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway, his words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable, and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him, and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way, part of me felt happy to see him, and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away, and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Update 4. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived with an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away, and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session, and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area for another 6 months. After a year, we agree to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with his goal of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official, and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligated myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course, he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more. But 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or 2 getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however, he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man-complete stranger is his dad. He said, "Sure, yeah." Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy? This guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now, it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really F up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Update 5. It's been 3 weeks since I last posted, and just over a month since our new visitation arrangement started. I've seen plenty of people here talking about how dumb I am. I don't really understand. What am I doing that's so dumb? I know it was dumb to have an ongoing, year-long affair with a married man. It was stupid to put myself in a position where I could likely end up pregnant. That was in the past. What am I doing now that's so stupid? I have a lawyer. Yes, I agreed to talk to his wife one time. How was I to know she was just doing his bidding? Who would have thought that was the case? It's not even like I went to meet her in person somewhere. It was just a video call. I figured I at least owed that to her. Just one time, and a chance to tell her I was sorry for what I did. But ultimately it felt off, and I protected my son by telling her I didn't think it was appropriate at this time for me and my 2 years old to travel to another state to meet her teenage kids. It's not as if talking to her opened the door for him to reach out to me. I was careful with what info I shared with her. It's not as if I told her my address. He didn't need her to gather that info from me. Me talking to her isn't what prompted him to contact me directly and establish paternity. When he reached out to me directly about wanting to be involved with our son, I didn't reach out to him and decide to discuss things directly with him. I got a lawyer. When he showed up at my house, I didn't let him inside. I put my son in his room so he didn't eventually see our son or have access to him. I'm listening to my lawyer. I met with him in a mediation and I am trying to make careful decisions for my son. There is nothing I can do to prevent him from having access to our son. The court will grant him access if I fight it. At least this way I have a say in the arrangement. We are supposed to be using a parenting app. Since the last time I posted, he's reached out to me outside of the app. Now, he keeps talking about us coming there to visit him. I have told him no. It's not appropriate. It's too much too soon. He's also already started talking about changing my son's last name to his. But you know, maybe in a year or so. He tries to have personal conversations with me, not always about our son. I have shut those down and referred him back to the parenting app. He thinks using the app is stupid and is only for people who can't get along. He thinks it'd be better for our son if we got along and got to know each other again. He cares about me and what's going on in my life, or so he says. I also didn't cash the check he gave me. I returned it. If he wants to help financially beyond the child support he's ordered to pay, he can purchase items that our son needs out of his own free will, but he isn't to give me cash or checks. My lawyer actually told me that there was nothing wrong with accepting and cashing the check. It wouldn't affect anything related to child support. But knowing him, he could be using this check as something he can bring up later in court, and I just didn't feel comfortable about it. Sure, I would have loved to have kept it. There are quite a few useful things I could have used that money for. Of course, he was upset when I returned the check via certified mail. His plan was foiled. I know he's trying to butter me up for something. I don't know precisely what, but I'm not that stupid that I don't see through him now. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel James Stories.